waiting for the pitch at the end. Here's my mastermind, here's the upsell, here's I'm going to, keep you on it. I got nothing. I didn't have a web page.
Doug, thank you for joining me today. You are one busy guy, so I am just so grateful for you taking the time to chat with us about your entrepreneurial journey.
I'm honored to be here too, Rob. This is anything I can do to help you guys. I mean, my love for the population that you guys are working with and helping is been my life's work. So anyone who can help us, and I do mean us, as the entrepreneurial, shame-based people that we are, man, we need it. So
it's amazing. And, I'm just going to hold up your book, Driven, so everybody can see that who is watching this on our YouTube channel. But for those of you that are listening, Dr. Doug has a wonderful book called Driven. And we always like to recommend that to anybody that we come into contact with, because if you're listening, I think you fit the profile of being driven, and you'll learn a lot about that in this book. It's pretty amazing. But Doug, I always like to start with a quote, and I just like to have you reflect just for a second when you hear it and let us know kind of what comes to mind for you. So this quote is short. It goes like this: "It takes tremendous effort to have no effort." And that's an old saying in meditation practice.
That is a very old saying in meditation practice. That is, you put Navy SEALs in a functional MRI, and they have a anterior cingulate, part of the brain that's willpower. And PhD, Navy SEAL, whatever, it's a symbol that we can do a lot of things that we didn't want to do. So that's willpower. It's great effort. But they have the right side of their frontal lobe, insular, lit up, which means they really have a clear understanding why they're doing it. But you put a Buddhist monk in a functional MRI, you see the same big ball of energy in the anterior cingulate, but their left insular lights up, which is curiosity, which is openness, which is often associated with feelings of spirituality. So it takes tremendous effort to become completely curious and open. And that balancing between the left and right hemispheres is really the core of what I teach in harnessing what it means to be driven. So it is a Navy SEALs, I know why I'm doing what I'm doing, versus I'm not sure why I'm doing it, but I'm never going to quit.
Uh-huh.
That skill set, particularly for the audience listening here, as Elon Musk says, starting a company is like chewing on glass while staring into the abyss of hell. It is. And I work the same groups of, entrepreneurial startup hell. And it is, there's a reason the types of people that I write about and I am, we're the same ones that went west in the 1820s. And, why'd you go west? We had to. And so that effort, but as I always teach my entrepreneurs, you just don't go west. You figure out wagons and you talk to some people and you predict what season you're going to do it. You don't just go. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing with the entrepreneurs.
Oh, thank you.
You got to have some forethought before you just start running west.
Right.
Otherwise, Indians will get you.
So I'm so curious. I would love to hear more about your entrepreneurial story. So can you share kind of how you got to where you are?
Yeah, it is an evolving process, and some life changes that I'm going through here this past year is going to allow me to actually change some more, which I'm really, really excited about. But so Randy Kelly, he was my Bujinkan. He was a martial arts teacher of mine. And and I was a clinical psychologist in a regular standard practice in San Diego, seeing clients on the hour and kind of taking walk through the door, but working primarily in the addiction world. And so these addiction genetics and what I write about in Driven, going back to 1991 when I entered grad school, the Time magazine article came out about the dopamine receptor number 2, and we found the alcoholism gene. And so it's been something I had been working on, about this entrepreneurial mind That's what I called it. And this was 2012, 13, 10 plus years ago. And Randy and I were both, Randy's a Navy SEAL sniper, and I had been shooting for most of my life, long range shooting, competitive long range shooting, 600,000 yard shooting. And I said, hey, let's figure this out. Let's take a bunch of entrepreneurs to get them to sit down and meditate. Let's pair it with long range shooting. And so he and I worked on this concept, based on the practice of Aikido. Aikido is Zen archery, where they're shooting these little tiny targets long way away in a very dark room. And you're using your intuition, you're using all these things that, meditative type things to master this art. So we launched this business basically of doing retreats, and this is just when, 2012, 13, the internet was just rocking and rolling. I still had a pager. I mean, things were different. And just by chance, Jason Gagnard and Clay Hebert came to one of my shooting retreats. And these guys, ran one of the best masterminds in the country. And Clay Hebert was Seth Godin's marketing person. I mean, he worked with Seth Godin, and so they were entrepreneurial in the big world of entrepreneurs. They came to the shooting retreat and they're waiting for the pitch at the end. Here's my mastermind, here's the upsell, here's I'm gonna, keep you on it. I got nothing. I didn't have a web page. And they looked at me and said, what the hell are you doing? Like, what are you doing? This was the most amazing, magical experiences I've ever had. And you've just changed my life. And now you're just going to let us walk away? Like, yeah, why not? We're like, whoa, oh, you got to scale. Like, what's wrong with you? And so they invited us, Randy and I myself, to come teach meditation at his mastermind talks. And it was the first time I walked into a room with 150 entrepreneurs. And I had no idea that world existed. And it was like I was home. It was like, oh, these are my people. These they get me. We're all, it's a room full of ADD crazy. And Tim Ferriss was in the room, Tucker Max was in the room, and Tucker, was running back. He was booking the box back in the day, and he says, dude, write a book. And so found, somebody make me a web page, and the journey started to really, let myself out of my, as I always joked about, I hid in an office largely because of imposter syndrome and feeling like I wasn't, imposter syndrome, for those who don't really understand it, it's the outer world is actually better than how I feel about it. So, I had 2 PhDs, largely because I'm so insecure. It's totally stupid to have 2 PhDs. I mean, that's stupid. That's like, come on. But it tells me about, the personality type that I am is this, I'm driven. And so I am going to overachieve, hoping to get rid of this feeling that I'm not enough, which goes to those early genetics I talked about, feeling bored. It feels like there's something missing or wrong always in my world. And we tend to, as drivens, make an identity out of that. So there's something missing or wrong with me. But maybe if I get 2 PhDs, maybe if I have a big car or, whatever, this feeling will go away. And I can tell you, 2 PhDs didn't make me feel smart. But I was really scared to make the entrepreneurial leap of just step into the world. And so I was kind of dragged into it, to tell you the truth. And still, this reluctant Messiah model that, I kind of archetype I fit. And it's despite me, it's grown past me. So I'm excited about what the potential is, but I'm still very reluctant to really take the big leap.
What a journey. What a journey. Yeah. We talk a lot these days with entrepreneurs who say, especially obviously young ones, should I go to college? Is that worth it? Should I not go to college? Obviously you went to college, you have 2 PhDs. What are your thoughts on that?
Good question. I've got my 16-year-old daughter's boyfriend, and I just had this conversation. He's very entrepreneurial, very driven, and he's been hustling basketball cards and hockey cards since he was 9. This kid is
I think he's got the gene.
I think he's got this, kind of drive and he's a hustler. And it's, will college teach you anything? And the most important thing college will teach you is how to do things you don't want to do. And that, I think, as an entrepreneur is incredibly important to know. There's other ways to do that, but learning how you have to do things you don't want to do, you don't feel like doing. And so that skill set, has to be learned one way or another. And so it's imperative. College is it depends on the college, but if you're going there to learn entrepreneurship, you're wasting your time.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go there to learn business accounting. I think it's incredibly important to know how to use a P&L. I think it's incredibly important to understand basic business numbers, and how to measure your company success in reality and not use your feelings for that, use your KPIs and everything else. So I think there is some real value, practical value in going.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd be highly selective in, the courses you take and learn something that you're going to use.
Yeah. Yeah. We always like to ask entrepreneurs who have been through some stuff, did you ever have a time where it was like, this is a nightmare? And conversely, this is a dream. So do either of those resonate? I mean, if you have a story for both, great, but you can pick
So
one.
it is as I teach in my, in all my content, I always talk about heaven and hell. There's heaven realms where you're lost in the fantasy about how great it can be and how great it really is, and you're not seeing any snakes anywhere. Everything's a stick. But then your mood changes or your feeling changes, you start to get spun into fear, largely fear, and then everything becomes a snake. And that every circumstance you're in is both, and that's the old saying about Chinese symbols of danger and, terror and torment is also a very similar symbol as opportunity. And so it's the way you perceive things. And that over my time, it's my old joke, the worst things that ever happened to me turned out to be the best. And so I've got stories around, I'm a high school dropout that lived in a car. I'm not kidding you. At 16, I dropped out of high school. And, if you ever have the opportunity to smoke cocaine, it's a very, very quick ride to hell.
Mm-hmm.
But 2 PhDs later and a career later, based upon understanding myself because of those experiences, it's turned into heaven. So I think it's always both. And so but waiting in the hallway when you're sitting in hell, waiting for the other side to illuminate itself it's no fun, particularly. But that always begs the question for meditation. What I teach in meditation is reality checking your central nervous system. And so we're a fear-based animal. And so we are wired to see things as snakes. And being able to take a pause, step back, and actually, is it a snake or a stick? What makes it a snake? And being able to accurately discern through your emotions reality. That's called emotional intelligence. And it's the best predictor of success as entrepreneurs, of being able to, and I see it way too often, is I call it narcissistic fantasy of success. Of, oh my God, I've got the greatest idea and it's going to be awesome. I just need to do these 3 things. And they have no clue about how hard it is to actually, as Elon Musk says, I mean, you have no idea what you're about to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're just got to go west and we'll get there and then build a farm. And it's like, you got Donner Pass coming, brother. You could be eating each other if you're not careful. So that ability to actually know we're not in reality, largely because of our emotion. And so being able to see through your emotion is one of the most important things I can teach young entrepreneurs of really yes, it can be great, but you're not seeing the big picture. And well, it all just sucks. Well, you're not seeing truth either. And so it's that ability to take that pause and actually, as I said earlier, look at your numbers, look at your KPIs. And we want things to work so bad that we are scared to actually see how it's not working.
Yeah.
That's the shooting retreats. One of the best ways that I teach this is we all want to hit a target at 1,000 yards. And it is a simple process that I teach. I teach you how to shoot a target at 200 yards. And you put your hand here, you do this, and then you bring the gun, and then you follow this simple process. You hit the target. You do the same thing at 1,000, you'll hit the target. And it's that being held by your ambition. I need this to happen, versus being led by your ambition to follow the process. And that, when you're too focused on the results, a classic example, and I don't care who you are, I got an example in my book about a Navy SEAL that was outshot by one of the first-time shooter women. He's a 25, 22-year Navy veteran, Navy SEAL veteran, master marksman, and all this other stuff. And this Katie, this Olympic snowboarder, badass Navy. I mean, she was just a badass. First time she ever shot a gun. She goes walking back to the meditation cushion as, he's coming up, and she raises 4 fingers and pumps her fist. And she hit it 4 out of 5 times. He looked and went, oh shit. He promptly got up to the target and missed the first shot. And just went, oh. And so that being bound by the outcome, I need to hit it, so I'm not left with this feeling that I'm not good enough. Is this, that's narcissism. And that is this driving force that most entrepreneurs get trapped into.
Yeah.
Where it's not about the results, but you need accurate measures of the results so you can assess the process. And, and I say it every time I do these retreats is, trust the process. And a company is nothing other than building a bunch of processes. And you need outcomes to measure those processes, and you never can have a perfect outcome. It's not yes or no. It's a 7 on a 10 scale. And it's like, yeah, we got it. But you never hit the dead center of the target. So it is, this ability to see that you need outcomes, but they're not about you. They're not about your success or failure. They're about the process you're building.
Yeah.
And so it's a key takeaway for, this assessment of, are you in heaven or hell? The answer is both.
The answer is both. Can you talk a little about, I mentioned to you before we came on, we talk a lot about 6 essential traits that an entrepreneur has. They are visionary, passionate, problem solver, driven, risk taker, responsible. 2 parts to this. Do you feel that you have those traits? And do you feel these are important traits in the people?
So when I first wrote Driven, largely because of my imposter syndrome, I was scared that, people would see it as a yes or a no question. Are you driven? Yes or no? And so I created a statistically valid, spent a year and a bunch of money nationally norming my assessment that I got on my webpage about different types of drivens. And so, visionary in particular, you see people, coming out of EOS and everything else that I'm very familiar with. You see left hemisphere drivens, which are, left hemisphere of the brain. You have a dominant left hemisphere, tend to be much better implementer integrators because they're much more logical, rational, linear, but they're still driven, and they have the big picture thinking so they can get the multivariables. Then I always joke, because I am a right hemisphere driven, which is the emotional, visionary, and I can be lost in the clouds thinking about my visions all day. And so the point of all of those traits that you guys list is You can develop and manage them, obviously responsibility. You can work on these traits and develop. And as Carl Jung said, just because you're a visionary, just because I'm right hemisphere dominant, and that comes natural to me, I can develop my left hemisphere. And he conceptualized it, Carl Jung conceptualized it as handedness. So yes, I'm right-handed, or yes, I'm right-brained, but I can learn to bat with my left hand. I can learn to write. It's not as natural, but it's a skill that I can develop. But under stress, I'm still going to go to my right hemisphere. Is my vision still intact? So yes, I hit all those traits, and that to varying degrees, and that I develop them as along the
Interesting.
way.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that answer. It's really interesting. I'd heard it said that way before in my many interviews. So thank you for that. And I'm curious too, as you've been, going on this journey, have you had mentors that have been important to you? Do you think mentors are important?
Possibly the most important thing in an entrepreneur's world. I will say that affirmingly. It's one of my best mentors, just to frame this, has been my daughter Megan. And she's, make me cry. She's taught me how to play. She's taught me all of these wonderful things that I didn't necessarily know I needed to learn. And so, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. But it's look for mentors in anything that you're that you're attracted to. And and I always put my hand on my chest, because it's something that your body needs to learn, and learning to use that intuitive function. And so I'm always looking for a mentor. And you don't assume they have to be some old gray-haired guy that had your business and ran it through. That might help, and you might be lucky in that they actually have expertise. But that's not truly a mentor. That's more of a teacher. So they can teach you specific things, but a true mentor is somebody that is teaching me wisdom.
Yeah.
So it's more of an attitude that I try to adopt. And I've had some phenomenal mentors, and some of them I've called mentors. Most of them I don't. So I don't want to put the pressure on them.
Yeah, that's good. I love that. But you recognize it in that way.
I recognize it as something. Dr. Jeannie Hart, one of my early mentors, she was one of my last professors, and she said that getting a PhD teaches you what true expertise is. And what true expertise is understanding how much you don't know about something. How much you really don't know about psychology. And the most important part of that is that you can then recognize that in others. And so a mentor is somebody, to me, that has great knowledge about something, but they have a continuous state of humility and learning in it. Because then the true mentorship is they're learning from me and I'm learning from them, and we're learning something new together. And that I have sought most of my life. And whether it's a Navy SEAL or a 4-year-old, it is something that I can't express how important that is in life.
We always talk about some must-dos that we recommend to early stage entrepreneurs. And when they're thinking about their business, and I really thought about this with you, we encourage them to think about it in this way. The bigger the problem that you solve in the world, the more successful you'll be. And when I thought about the work that you're doing, it kind of resonated with me. And I'm wondering how you feel about that.
So my work is all about helping entrepreneurs understand that the biggest problem they have is themselves. And if you can get that through your thick head, that the only true problem you have is yourself, then it shifts this understanding that the problems aren't external to me. It's when I'm facing a problem on the outside, it's me that is struggling with solving it. And how do I actually become curious? How do I actually see the problem in a new way? That's on me. And that is something I can affect. And so it's a shift in that you're really understanding, as I think I said earlier, the Chinese symbol for problem is opportunity. And it's one and the same, it's both at the same time.
Yeah.
And so getting that stable central nervous system to where you can see through your own fear and see through your own narcissistic fantasy BS. And, oh, it's so great. And it's like, no, it's a lot of work. Oh, it sucks. No. And so hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. What about, and especially I was thinking a little bit about anyone who writes a book, everybody's got an opinion on it, and so we always talk about to our groups, listen, take criticism and doubt with a grain of salt. And I'm wondering how you feel about that.
Yeah, it is the most important thing that you can see, especially as a young entrepreneur, is everybody's biased and everybody's looking through their own eyes. And the example I give in Driven is very simply, the cup and handle. That you give me a cup and it doesn't have a handle. And I see this cup and I hate cups without handles. And you're a jerk for doing that. My perception's accurate. My feelings about you are accurate. And I'm just not seeing all of reality. And, a relationship is literally being able to not say, well, I'm wrong and you're right. It's both a 6 and a 9. And so when somebody criticizes you, understand that, that they're just seeing the handle from their side, but you want to see the handle from their side. And so it is both, you take all opinions in, but you hold them very loosely. And, and they're right from their side. And so in taking into context their emotion and their fear, or their competitive, or, why are they saying this? But it's all valid unless they're just, attacking to attack, which is fairly rare, actually. It's they got a point. And so understanding their point through the emotional hurt that they're going to launch at you. And so it's keep shout out for meditation, being able to calm that central nervous system and say, man, you suck. But what did you say? It's that you need to be able to take it in. And, I teach all of my guys that I work with to talk me out of this. What am I not seeing here?
Yeah.
It's not a criticism of you as the person, back to the results thing. It's really a criticism of the processes that you're not seeing.
Yeah.
And so it is imperative to be able to hear them.
Another thing we talk about are 9 stages that a business goes through. And one of the things I was curious about with you and your business is we talk about staying in your personal sweet spot. And I felt like with the work that you do, you probably get things coming at you, new opportunities, new things you could do with this. What if we did this? What if we did that? Partner with this one. You probably just have to bat them away. So I'm just curious how you feel about that.
Yeah, Clay, actually, one of my early mentors, who drugged me out of my office. He does an exercise with all of his clients called the perfect day. And what is your perfect day? And that what I do, spend time with my kids, and then I see 4 or 5 clients, and then I, get the afternoon off, and I get to go bass fishing in the evening, and then I get to come home and spend some more time with my kids. And it is as I always teach in Driven, in particular, we are hunters wired for the shiny, there's more woolly mammoths over the next hill. And so we're always chasing that shiny object on the horizon, but this capacity to understand there is no there. When you finally get to the next hill, it's not going to feel the way it felt when you were looking up the hill. And so you're going to look for the next hill and look. And I work with a lot of guys who miss life, absolutely miss life chasing shiny shit. And so, staying in your lanes, your sweet spot, your happy place, or whatever, acronym you want to give it, It's more of an awareness of, and back to meditation, you know, this what is driving me? Is it this imaginary finish line that when I finally get to, I heard 10 million liquid in the bank and I can take 400 interest and sell it all and be quit and not do anything, sit on the beach. It's like, yeah, you know what happens when you do, that's part of my doctoral dissertation with self-sabotage. Lottery winners, guys who sell their companies, same thing. 2 to 3 years later, they're miserable. They're empty. They are broke. They sabotage it because it is, you know, the metaphor that I give in the book. It's actually a Japanese koan that I worked on for a long time. And the joke is, you know, it's a koan is, you know, when you finally get to the top of the 100-foot pole, when you finally climb this pole and get to the top, what do you do next? And and so koans are Japanese riddles designed to bind the monkey mind. But the answer finally came to me deep in a meditation retreat 2 years after working on the koan. And I laughed so hard, I separated my muscles from my rib cage. I mean, I was hysterically like crazy person laughing. Because the answer is there truly is no pole. There truly is no pole. And yet I was making this pole climbing exercise out of that damn koan. And so it became very funny to me. And I say it in context to entrepreneurs and drivens like us, is that there really is no pole. But if I don't have a pole to climb, I'm miserable. But it's not about it's not about the top of the pole. It is being in that sweet spot of, you know, I can't retire. I can't. I don't want to retire.
Right.
But most of my days is not filled with work now. You know, I've designed a life to where I make plenty of money and I have a beautiful life and I work with people that I really enjoy. And yes, I get lots of opportunity of this. I call them the scale porners. You got to, you know, scale porn where they're oh my God, you got to scale, you got to scale, you got to scale. And it's why? Why? Well, you just should. No, you're climbing a pole, man. There's no there. You know, I take on 10 employees and do this and do that and do this and do this, you know, and you know, the lifestyle business comes and goes in the entrepreneur world. And it's something I've latched onto that no, today is not preparation for some other day. This is your life. You're living it. And if you know, are waiting for the day to finally get here when you can relax, it never comes. This is it. And when you start to find, you know, as I joke, you know, being balanced is death. Balancing, it's ing. You're constantly in this state of course correction. Of too much work, not enough. Too much exercise, not enough. Too much time with the wife, not enough. And then, you know, that understanding that you're balancing, that you're constantly moving this rudder. And seasons of your life, you know, with teenagers now, and they're driving, and my life is different than it was when they were little.
Right.
You know, so the balance has to change. But that sweet spot of looking at your whole life perspective rather than just what I do.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a very important thing. I think it comes with age, but when you're in your 20s and you are on fire and you're not dating anybody and you're just, you know, you're working 80 hours a week and it doesn't, and you're that's the season of your life and grind. Get at it, you know. And so it's appreciate that it will change. You can't do that forever.
Yeah, that's so good, Doug. So much wisdom today.
It was fun.
So much. I so appreciate you taking the time to chat with me and have this wisdom brought out to our many listeners. I just so greatly appreciate you.
Anytime you want me back, say when. I will
do that. I will do that.
Appreciate it, Rob.
For sure. And to all the amazing entrepreneurs listening today, I greatly appreciate you spending time with us, and I wish you all much love and gratitude.